Hi, everyone. Do you want life? Why not? Doesn't everyone? I mean, so many of us take time to improve our health. We hedge our bets on the latest diets and lifestyle changes and enhancements in order to extend life. I guess we'd be hard pressed to find people who wouldn't jump at the chance to get life if it were offered at a decent price. In our Mesorah and our Jewish heritage, not once but twice do we find someone selling the secret to life. In the Talmud, it was Rav Alexandri who took to the streets to make an announcement: Who wants life? Who wants life? Man bai chayi, man bai chayi. Of course, when the crowds gathered around him, rushing to take advantage of the offer, he opened the book of Tehillim and quoted the psukim. Who's the person who desires life and loves his days to see good? He's the one who guards his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking deceit. You know, it's fascinating that Rav Alexandri took to the street to teach this lesson, like he was some showman with a new secret on life. His entire secret to living was a pasuk in Tehillim that the people recited regularly. Why do you assume that he had uncovered some great secret that would enlighten the people? Didn't they already know the Tehillim? And while we're at it, why did he call the people to see who wanted life twice? Man boichai, man boichai. While we're on the subject of life and life seekers, Rav Alexandri was not the only one who tried to pull the Tehillim trick. You see, the Medrash in Yalkut Shimoni tells us about a certain Rochel, a certain peddler, who came to the neighborhood of Rav Yanai, who was also called to the people to see if anyone wanted to purchase Samchai, the elixir of life. When Rav Yanai's daughter heard the commotion, she went to her father to let him know what was going on. Rav Yanai then challenged the peddler to show him that elixir. And the man came along and showed Rav Yanai the same psukim in Tehillim that Rav Alexandria had taught about avoiding slander and lashon hara. Rav Yanai not only brought the man into his home to feed him, he also paid him good money for the lesson, the Medrash says. And when questioned by the students why he paid for a pasuk he clearly had learned and probably taught many times, he responded that while he knew the pasuk, the man had come along and explained it to him. Now, what new insight did this man bring to Rav Yanai? Was it similar to the lesson of Rav Alexandri? It must have been really important for Rav Yanai to have paid for it, but what was so important to the lesson that Rav Yanai went out of his way in order to pay? And why does the Medrash add to the story that's already in the Gemara with a whole new cast of characters and an expanded storyline? Does that also merely just extend life? So here you have it, two Midrashim, two Amoraim selling life twice, all to explain one pasuk in Tehillim. Why? The famed Reb Naftali Amsterdam quoted the late Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, who noted that there are two types of ethical lessons that can be taught. There are the intellectual lessons, or what he called the Musar Sichli, which are potent, but they require the listeners to carefully attend in order to appreciate the depth of the teaching. The second type of lesson, the Musar Hitpa'ali, is much more of a shock and awe style. For as Rabbi Yisrael explained, being amazed and awed allows the ethical teaching to immediately impact the person's heart. And perhaps this is why Rav Alexandri, and maybe even the peddler, chose the dramatic show in order to highlight the lessons of the evils of slander and the positive benefit of protecting oneself from it. By making the demonstrative exhibition, Rav Alexandri saw to it that the people would be ready and excited to take the message to heart as they were primed to hear it, and to treat the lesson with the seriousness of he who's on the hunt for the elusive fountain of youth. The Ben Ish Chai adds that perhaps this is why Rav Alexandri cried out twice, Man boi chai, man boi chai, who wants life, who wants life? You see, the Ben Ish Chai notes that the benefits of guarding one's tongue is so powerful, it extends life both qualitatively and quantitatively. And perhaps our Mesorah too wanted to double highlight both the qualitative and quantitative aspects of this message, and so it too is repeated twice to underscore the importance of the lesson twice over. And not to be outdone, our peddler in the Medrash also wanted to see to it that the lesson was repeated. In fact, the Chidah notes that this is why he referenced not who wants life, but who wants Sama Dechayi, the elixir of life. The Chidah explains that an elixir is a preservative. It's different from merely acquiring life from a mere acquisition. You see, our peddler knew that people can acquire life, but we acquire many things in our lives. And after holding them for some short or maybe longer period, we can just as easily lose that which we acquired. But like Rav Alexandri, the peddler didn't want people to miss out on the double benefit of his lesson. He didn't merely want it to be acquired, he wanted it to be preserved by them. And so hence he taught the very same lesson, but as a preserved method for not losing life, by losing the desire for defamation and disparagement instead. But what were the two teachers, Rav Alexandri and the peddler, touting that wasn't so obvious to anyone who studies Tehillim? What did they add? I'd like to offer two distinct lessons that emanate not from the tongue, but from the eye first. You see, Rav Nissen Alpert notes that slander and disparagement of the type we're told to stay away from begins with the way that we look at people and the things that they have to do. When we look at things positively, we are not likely to vilify the people, nor the objects or the actions. Unfortunately, when we choose to see others in a derisive way, we can wreak havoc in their lives and destroy ours at the same time. The Meraglim, the spies, chose to look at Eretz Yisrael during their 40-day spy mission badly. Although they only spoke badly for one night, they were punished Yom Lashana, a year for each day of the journey for the total of 40 years of wandering as a punishment. You see, the punishment began when the spies looked out badly on Eretz Yisrael. The eyes had it, and boy, did they have it bad. And so thus Rav Nissen explains, the pasuk needs to be understood differently. Who is the person who seeks life to love the days? Liros tov. It begins with seeing the good. That'll protect you from the Lashon Hara slander. It starts with the outlook. And that's the first lesson, and it's definitely worth money in the bank. But there's a second lesson that perhaps necessitated a second story as well. You see, Rav Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin draws our eyes not to the pasuk in Tehillim taught, but rather to the guy teaching it, the peddler. He explains that many of us think that it's too hard to protect ourselves from speaking Lashon Hara. It's too hard not to be disparaging when life seems to give opportunity and wealth and success to others that we feel we might deserve. And how are we to deny ourselves the pleasure of small gossip when everyone does it and it feels good, even if but for a moment? To that, Rav Yanai saw the message that our peddler, Arochel, offered. Peddlers were history's gossip mongers. They were the little newsmakers before there were podcasts and trolling sites and even tabloids. They peddled the gossip in order to bring people together to peddle their wares. In fact, Rechilas is the Torah's word for peddling in the Torah in Lashon Hara. If the peddler could overcome the natural inclination of his job to peddle the lesson of life, certainly Rav Yanai, Rav Alexandri, and you and me for that matter, could do the same. Yes, we spend our lives trying to get Chaim, to get life, through health, through effort, through building, through success. And Chazal come and tell us we're looking in the wrong place. Chaim is not something you go out and acquire. It's something you're constantly either creating or draining. With the way we choose to see people, and with the way we choose to speak about them. That's why they sold it in the street. That's the definition of Chaim itself. And frankly, that's why the pasuk begins not with the tongue, but with the eye, liros tov. Because if we see tov, we will speak tov. And if we speak tov, we will build Chaim in our relationships, in our homes, and in ourselves. And if not, then slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, a person can have everything and be losing Chaim at the same time. That was the chiddush, the nuance the peddler taught. Not how to get Chaim, but how not to lose it. And that's the chiddush Rav Yanai was willing to pay for. Because in the end, every single day, in the smallest moments, a comment, a reaction, a story, we're being asked that same question, Miha'ish hachafetz chaim, who is the person who seeks life? And the answer is not only what we say, it's what we choose to see and what we choose not to say. Because in those moments, more than we realize, we're not just speaking, we're deciding whether we're living. My dear friends, the marketplace hasn't changed. The offer is still being called out. Miha'ish hachafetz chaim. The only question is, do we keep walking or do we finally stop and buy? Wishing you and yours a Shabbat Shalom and a Shabbat Shalom to all.